The headlamp beam cuts through blue ice, revealing a shape that doesn't belong here. Aluminum skin, dull gray beneath layers of frost. The glacier wall curves inward, and there, pressed into frozen clarity, sits a P-38 Lightning. The twin booms stretch back into solid ice. The nose cone points downward at a shallow angle, as if the plane simply glided to rest and the mountain closed around it. The canopy glass remains intact. Frost patterns spiderweb across the surface, but through the gaps, the cockpit is visible. Control yoke centered, instrument panel facing forward, everything still mounted, still in place. 78 years have passed since this aircraft last moved through open air, yet the Glacier preserved what no museum could replicate: a fighter frozen mid-mission, untouched by salvage crews or souvenir hunters. The canopy frame shows stress fractures along the left side, likely from impact, but the glass itself held. Inside, the pilot's seat remains bolted to its rails. The cushion collapsed under decades of pressure, but the harness straps hang exactly where they were released or cut. No skeleton, no remains. The pilot made it out, or the body was removed before the ice sealed the site. The control yoke sits in neutral position. Both hands would have gripped the handles during flight, thumbs resting near the gun trigger on top. The yoke connects to cables running beneath the floorboards, still taut despite the cold. To the left, the throttle quadrant holds two levers, one for each Allison engine. Both levers sit at mid-range, suggesting the pilot reduced power before the crash or attempted a controlled descent. The instrument panel spans the width of the cockpit, 6 primary gauges arranged in the standard layout: altimeter, airspeed indicator, artificial horizon, turn coordinator, vertical speed, and heading indicator. The altimeter needle froze at 11,400 feet. The airspeed indicator reads 0, as expected. The artificial horizon ball tilted 15 degrees left, capturing the aircraft's final bank angle. These instruments were state-of-the-art in 1943. Pilots called them the six-pack, the minimum needed to fly in cloud or storm when the ground disappeared. Below the main panel, smaller gauges monitor engine temperature, oil pressure, fuel quantity. The fuel gauge needles rest near empty on both tanks. The right engine's temperature gauge shows a reading in the red zone, overheating. The left engine reads normal. This matches what investigators expected: single engine failure at high altitude, forcing the pilot to find somewhere, anywhere, to bring the plane down. The radio panel mounted to the right still holds its frequency dials. The settings are visible, though the frequency bands mean nothing without period documentation. A cord dangles from the radio, ending in an oxygen mask connector. The mask itself hangs from a hook near the pilot's head position, rubber cracked but not disintegrated. At 11,000 feet, oxygen wasn't mandatory, but recommended for extended missions. The map case, a hinged metal box between the pilot's knees, stayed latched. Inside, folded navigation charts show the Western Mediterranean theater. Pencil marks trace a route from Algiers northeast toward Italian airspace. Grid coordinates appear along the margins, written in the tight, practiced hand of a mission briefing. This was a bomber escort run, part of Operation Husky, the Allied invasion of Sicily. The date written on the map corner reads July 14th, 1943. Spent shell casings litter the cockpit floor beneath the rudder pedals. 50 caliber casings, 4 of them, probably ejected during a gun test or brief engagement before the engine trouble began. The Lightning carried 4 machine guns in the nose, and these casings rolled backward through the cockpit during maneuvers, collecting in the footwell where they stayed for 80 years. Glacial ice is not static. It flows, compresses, shifts with seasons and centuries. But the cold at this altitude, combined with the depth of burial, created conditions closer to a freezer than a river. The aluminum airframe shows almost no corrosion. Paint remains visible on the fuselage sides, faded but legible. A pin-up illustration decorates the left boom. A woman in a red dress, her name painted below in cursive. Memphis Rose, the nose art tradition carried from bomber crews to fighters, each plane given identity by the men who flew it. The wings, buried deeper than the fuselage, required more excavation. Once exposed, they revealed details no restored aircraft could provide. The leading edges show compression damage from the impact, but the control surfaces, ailerons, flaps, trim tabs, remain attached and movable. Ice locked them in place, but the hinges and cables survived. On the underside of the left wing, a patch of fabric covering an inspection panel still bears the stenciled designation. Check before flight. Inside the wing cavities, ammunition boxes for the nose guns stayed sealed. Corrosion reached the metal, but the boxes protected their contents. Each box held a belt of .50 caliber rounds, linked and ready to feed. The recovery team counted 120 rounds remaining in the left wing box, 95 in the right. A full combat load was 500 rounds per gun. This pilot had fired most of his ammunition before the mechanical failure ended the mission. The landing gear, retracted into the wings and fuselage, stayed in the up position. This confirms the pilot never attempted a wheels-down landing. On a Glacier, gear would have caught and flipped the aircraft. He kept them retracted, planning for a belly landing on snow. The gear doors, thin aluminum panels, bent inward slightly, but remained attached. Small details, but they tell the story of a pilot who knew what he was doing, even as the situation collapsed. Personal items appeared in unexpected places. A leather glove wedged behind the seat, probably lost during the evacuation. A metal canteen rolled into the tail section, still holding frozen liquid. The canteen's strap was cut, not unbuckled, suggesting haste. A folded letter, tucked into a pocket sewn into the cockpit sidewall, remained dry enough to open. The ink faded, but the words stayed readable. A letter from home, dated 2 weeks before the crash. The pilot had carried it on the mission. On July 14, 1943, the 82nd Fighter Group launched from a temporary airstrip near Algiers. Their mission, escort B-17 bombers striking rail yards outside Naples. The P-38 squadron consisted of 12 aircraft. Records list all 12 returning safely, but one didn't. The pilot filed no distress call. The squadron reported no losses, yet here the plane rests, 200 miles north of the mission route, deep in alpine Glacier. The discrepancy suggests the pilot diverted after the formation disbanded. Engine trouble wouldn't have announced itself with sirens. The right engine's temperature gauge tells the story. Overheating, likely a coolant leak or oil system failure. The Allison V1710 engine could run hot for a while, but sustained overheating warped cylinder heads and seized pistons. The pilot would have felt vibration first, then loss of power, then the decision point. Try to make it back or find ground now. Weather reports from that day describe scattered clouds at 10,000 feet and a cold front moving through the Alps. Visibility dropped to less than a mile in some areas. A pilot nursing a failing engine, flying alone, might have climbed above the clouds to find clear air, then discovered he couldn't descend safely without visual reference. The altimeter reading of 11,400 feet places the aircraft just above the worst of the cloud layer. The landing site, a glacial plateau at 11,200 feet, offered the only flat surface for miles. The pilot would have spotted it through breaks in the cloud, committed to the approach, and brought the Lightning down wheels up on snow. The impact marks, still faintly visible in the ice, show a controlled belly landing. The aircraft skidded 200 feet before stopping. The pilot survived. He opened the canopy, climbed out, and walked away. No blood, no signs of injury inside the cockpit. What happened next remains uncertain. The pilot would have been alone, at altitude, in deteriorating weather. He carried survival gear, the canteen, possibly a flare gun, the leather jacket visible in the back of the cockpit. The nearest village sat 15 miles downhill. A fit man could make that distance in a day if he knew the route. Search records from 1943 show no rescue operations in this area. Either the pilot made it down unassisted, or he didn't make it at all. Glacial ice forms from compacted snow. Each winter adds a layer. Each summer melts the surface, but the cold core remains. Over years, the layers compact into solid ice that flows downhill like slow liquid. The P-38 landed on the glacier's surface in 1943. By 1945, it was buried under 6 feet of snow. By 1960, it had descended 400 feet in elevation, carried by the glacier's flow. By 2000, it sat under 60 feet of ice. Glaciers don't move uniformly. Crevasses open and close. Ice near the surface flows faster than ice at the base. Objects trapped in the glacier tumble, rotate, and sometimes fracture under the pressure. The P-38 avoided the worst of this because it landed in a zone of minimal shear stress, a relatively stable section where the ice flows smoothly rather than breaking apart. Climate change accelerated the glacier's retreat. Each year, the surface melts back further than the winter snow replaces. The equilibrium broke. The glacier began surrendering mass faster than it accumulated new ice. In 2019, a research team mapping glacial loss with ground-penetrating radar detected an anomaly, a large metallic object 45 feet below the surface. The shape didn't match geological formations. It matched an aircraft. The team returned in 2021 with thermal drilling equipment. They melted a shaft down through the ice, lowering cameras to confirm what the radar suggested. The first images showed the twin booms of a P-38. The second pass revealed the tail number, partially visible under frost, 42-12652. Cross-referenced with wartime records, this number belonged to an aircraft listed as returned to base on July 14, 1943. The records were wrong or incomplete or deliberately altered. The plane never made it back. The first items removed were the most fragile: the maps, the letter, the leather glove. These went into insulated containers held at freezing temperatures to prevent sudden deterioration. Paper that survives 80 years in ice can crumble in minutes once exposed to warm, dry air. The letter required specialized conservation work. Archivists slowly raised the temperature over weeks, allowing the fibers to adjust before attempting to read the full text. The instrument panel came out in sections. Each gauge was photographed in place, then carefully detached from its mounting bracket. The altimeter and airspeed indicator, both mechanical devices, still functioned when tested later. The needles moved freely. The internal mechanisms showed no corrosion. These instruments will join museum collections, but their real value lies in what they reveal about manufacturing standards and pilot interface design in 1943. The control yoke required more effort. Cables connected it to systems throughout the airframe. Cutting those cables felt like severing the plane's nervous system, but leaving the yoke in place meant losing it to the glacier's continued movement. The yoke now sits in a climate-controlled archive, still bearing the grip marks worn into the rubber handles by the pilot's hands. The oxygen mask, though cracked, retained its shape. The rubber compound used in wartime production was designed to withstand cold, but 80 years pushed the material past its limits. Still, the mask's design, the fit, the seal, the connection points, provides data for historians studying pilot survival equipment. Modern replicas often guess at these details. This mask eliminates the guesswork. The ammunition from the wing boxes presented a hazard. 50 caliber rounds, even 80 years old, remain dangerous. Explosive ordnance disposal specialists handled the removal. They determined that the rounds, while stable in the cold, could detonate if mishandled during transport. Each round was X-rayed before removal to check for internal corrosion or instability. Most of the ammunition went to military museums with proper storage facilities. The canteen's contents were analyzed after thawing. Water, as expected, but with trace elements suggesting it was filled from a municipal source, probably at the Algiers airfield. Even this small detail adds to the record. What pilots drank, how they prepared for missions, what supplies were standard issue, all of it documented in a single frozen canteen.